Hey, HR friends, welcome back. So we're going to talk about the 3-7 emotional 6.5 day sequence, and we made it to day two. Now, day one is usually the toughest because that's when the title change happens and it takes a little time for our bodies to acclimate. And we always start out by talking about the electromagnetics in general. Why? Because we're in a sentient space-time reality. And sentient means we're emotional beings, and the trick is this: we are designed to be defensive, which makes it awful hard to work through our emotions. So, understanding this unseen pattern of electromagnetics, we call it the unseen pattern of chaos. Why? Because this pattern is activating your defensive system of control, and it's trying to get you to run away and ignore your problems or stand up and fight for your problems. And both of those things are going to cause you additional stress. And additional stress just leads to faster aging and future states of disease. So, super, super important that we notify everybody when these points, these polarity moments are going to elevate, because what we can do is help you prevent stress by preparing for these moments. You see, you can't stop it. We're in this construct. It's designed to try to teach us. And the first thing we got to teach ourselves is how not to react. Now, there's some good news about day two. Day two is what's in this white rectangle here. And we're going to come back to the previous 24 hours so you can see it. Now, there was an emotional and a mental polarity flip happening. At the end of the last 24-hour period, you see how it drops down here and now it's just rolling through here? This is just an emotional one. Now, this emotional one is still going to push in to day three. Now, when there's an emotional polarity flip, it is messing with our emotional rhythms. Now, it can be a dual flip. This is not a dual, this is a single. It's still going to mess with us. So super, super important, especially in the first person perspective. What do I mean first person? Well, first person's all the people you have around you on a day-to-day basis, your family, your friends, your coworkers, your community members, okay? Definitely, if you've got to communicate with them or you have to work something out with them, stay as calm as possible. Super important, because during this time, while this is flipping, it's going to be nudging and prodding you in the direction of negative relationship or destructive relationship, the kind of relationship where you create more conflict instead of relieving it. Okay. Now, the good news here in day two is we still don't have a lot going on in third person polarity. Third person polarity has to do with our bigger picture items, okay? What we invest in, how we want to see the world come together. And the good news is this, at least this is laying down. Now, the number that we always talk about is 4. So if this pattern gets up above a 4, it's really going to start to activate. Now, this emotional one on its own is already doing some stuff. There's other polarity moments that are stacking up on top of it. And you can see in day two here that in first person, we're at that 4 through half the day, okay? And you can see that it reaches it to the 4 in the third person just a little bit now when we combine them. And we always combine them because stress is messy, right? If you've got stress at home or at work or in your community, and then you see something you don't like in the bigger picture, well, that's going to aggregate and cause you more stress. We're trying to help you understand how to read these charts and understand which days are going to be more challenging. So we're right at that point where it's going to be challenging. But because we just switched directions in the tide, and it usually takes a good 24, even 36 hours before people start feeling themselves again, as this electromagnetic current is starting to pick up and go the other way. The tide is now coming in. Super important you know this. Now, we've got this 24-hour period, we've got half of the next 24-hour period, and then we're going to get just a little bit of a break here before things start to ramp up again at the end of the sequence. All right. So there's some good news there too. All right. So let's get down here and we're just going to briefly talk about what the objective is in this sentient space-time reality. You see, we're in a mathematical construct. Every single one of us is born into a team, and that team is our family. Okay. Now, the problem is this: all of our families around the world, we just didn't realize we're all part of the same math. So, what's happened is our defensive system of control, our defensive biology, human nature, has convinced us that we need to invest in our family structure more. And that makes us compete for resources and income. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that the future generations and part of our family are going to be taken care of. No, the more people that do this and the more people that are contending or competing with other families, that's actually what's causing all of the division at the larger level. You see, all our families have different ideas on how our communities and even how our world or nation should be run. And the truth is, we got to come together with this understanding. And the only way that we're going to bring everybody together is when you realize, well, you don't really have much choice here. You see, you're born into this math. And this math is trying to teach us, and like I said up there, the first thing it's doing is it's trying to teach us how not to be negative, how not to create more stress. And it does this by making sure we create stress. Now that we know we're in this mathematical construct, it becomes very easy to understand how to get healthy. You see, if you don't get along with the members of your team and you don't balance your routine, you can't be healthy. And what do I mean by balancing our routines? Well, every single team member should be putting equal amounts of time in every day to make sure not only their family, but every family in the future is going to have a fair and balanced world to live in. Same thing here. You should be investing time to make sure all individuals are going to have a fair and balanced world to live in. And the same thing up here. We have to invest to make sure all our nations are working together so that it's going to be balanced and fair for all of us. Now, when we all invest in this, when every teammate invests in this, not only is it going to help their individual health, but what we're going to create is we're going to create an interconnected world that's actually peaceful and prosperous for all of us, and it's going to help us stabilize our climate. Now, if you didn't understand this, I'm going to tell you right now, space-time math is proportional. Every choice we make is amplified. So individual choice, that will affect your individual body. But regions of individuals, their choices will affect the environment and climate and weather events in those regions. So if you have lots of individuals that aren't committed to their families, and you have lots of individuals that are only committing to certain things and it's not benefiting everybody equally, then that area or that geographic location is going to have problems, just like your body will have problems if you don't balance these things too. Now, the way we did this is we try to keep this as simple as possible. The frequencies that govern us are connected to the quadrants of our body. And the upper left quadrant is green, the upper right quadrant is yellow, the lower left quadrant is orange, and the lower right quadrant is red. And on either side of those quadrants, you see a teammate and you see a routine. And if you're balanced with those teammates in that routine, then you're in balance with the frequency. If you're not, that's the quadrant of your body that you're going to have problems with. That's how easy this is. We're in an interactive biofeedback system. If you're balanced, you get a reward, you get positive feedback. If you're unbalanced, you get a punishment, you get negative feedback. It's that simple. And when you start to pay attention to this, you're going to find out that everything that you thought was genetically predetermined, well, we explain how that works, but you got that ability to change and do this. Commit to your team, commit to a balanced routine, and you slow the aging process. You can stop and reverse states of disease. And best of all, because this is a mathematical construct, there is a reward. This is a test to see how many of us are willing to use our free will to overcome our defensive design and create a future environment where our team is interconnected and it serves us all equally. Everybody that commits to that, they get to leave this negative feedback loop and they get to go to a positive feedback loop. Think of it like a digital heaven, okay? And this is just math. We can prove this. We prove this. Come to our site, check it out. Can't wait for you to see because that's just one more reason to invest. All right, let's come down here now. We're going to talk about day 2 and the zoomed in 24-hour guide. Now, super, super important. We do this for you. What we're doing is we're zooming it in so you can see where every peak and every valley on this electromagnetic sequence is going to be in the next 24 hours. Now, if you don't have good internet, what we've done is we have all 24 time zone offsets. You find your offset. This will hold for 10 seconds. Screenshot it. Now you've got it. So if you're in a rural area and you want to have access to this, we've helped you out. Now, if you've got good internet all day long, you go to our homepage. We've got a live feed there. It's got a time bar that runs right through this sequence. Use it. I promise you, the next time you're upset with somebody or somebody's upset with you, open it, reference it. You'll see that time bar is going through a peak. And what's happening is you just didn't realize in this sentient space-time reality, that's the first part of the challenge. And we've given you this technological advantage so you can stop making mistakes that are predetermined. This is a predetermined pattern. And this is how we can make such accurate predictions about social unrest and weather events that are going to come because we're literally, it's like we're puppets on a string right now. And I don't want to be that. I don't think you do either, because if we allow this pattern of chaos to direct us, it just makes us suffer. It makes us age faster. It makes everything tougher. All right. That's enough about this. So electromagnetics, as far as they go this section, we know we're on high alert here in first person, and there's going to be some third person agitation as well. You can see where that pops up. And when we look at the combined, we're at that 4, dancing around the 4 most of this 24-hour segment, okay? So again, just make sure you're paying attention. All right, so let's transition here. We're going to talk about alignments. And we've got a few of them today, but they're really stacked up here right when this 24-hour sequence starts. When an alignment happens, it's just a strong frequency. Why? Because two frequencies align. Now, during a 24-hour period, the only thing that's ever happening is we're being tested. We're always being tested on how balanced we are in our team and how balanced we are with our routines, because these moments in time are really easy for us to point out if you have an imbalance. And specifically, you can see that the left lower quadrant, so we're dealing with the younger members of the team. How do you get along with young females and young males? Are you able to communicate with them? Are you able to mentor them? Are you able to help them through their stress? Are you able to connect with them? Okay. That's what this is all about. And what should you be connecting about with them? Well, about what we're supposed to be doing, balancing our routine. And for young people, the hardest thing is balance. Why? Because they're trying to figure out what they're going to contribute to the team. And when you get really interested about something, and we've all done this, it's so easy to get out of balance. That's one of the hardest things to do. So, this is important, not only for them to learn how to balance, but for the older generations to figure out how to teach them to balance. And if you're not doing a good job of that, well, you're going to feel it in this left lower quadrant. And you can see that one, two, three of those are all going to be testing at the same time. And will not be surprised if a lot of people in the first part of the sequence feel their left lower quadrant. All right, the next one we're going to talk about is this PE down here, the purple one. Now, this is testing to see how balanced we are in our routines as far as what our contributions are to individuals. Is our routine not just helping our individual self, but does it equally help all the individuals around us? And if not, then expect to feel it in your right lower quadrant. Now, this is a pretty long alignment, and these four alignments are all going to affect the lower quadrants of the body. So don't be surprised if digestion's off, or low back tension's up, or musculoskeletal pain, or ankle, knees, hips, any kind of dysfunction going on down there during this period of time, highly likely if you're out of balance. Again, these are strong moments, easy for us to push out. Now, because they're all overlapping, super important that you document, because if something happens, we want to be able to tease it out and know exactly where you want to focus, because we want you feeling better. We want things going better for you as soon as possible. All right, so let's end it out here. We got one last alignment to talk about. It's this ME. It's the only one that's going to the upper quadrants. Now, this is a little bit tougher. This is leadership colors. So this is mother and fathers, or this is the captains of the team. And this is developing your skills and being able to understand how important it is to not only balance your routine, but to be able to vocalize that and mentor other people and not just tell them. You got to show them. Okay. Nobody likes to be told what to do. A lot of people like to be inspired by somebody that's already doing it and seeing how successful it is. So these are the tougher colors. Everybody's going to struggle with this. This also has to do with the bigger picture, too. How are we contributing to the national and the world level? Because that's how mature people start to think. They don't just think about their own families or the individuals in their communities. They start to think about that bigger picture, and that's what you need to be developing. So when this alignment comes, if you've got issues going on in that upper left quadrant and a headache happens to come on during this time period right here, this hour and a half time, or you notice during this hour and a half something's off, it just means you got to invest more in your leadership qualities and how you're getting along with the leaders in your life. All right, that's enough about the alignments. Let's get down here and we're going to talk about the testing sequence briefly. Now, testing sequence, if it gets above a 4, if there's more than 4 frequencies in your quadrant at a time, that's a heavy test load. And this is pretty equally distributed. You can see it starts out a little slow in the upper left, but then it pops up to that 4 range. We're at the 4 here, the 4 here, the 4 here. It drops down at the last 12 in the lower right. Okay. So everything's fair game today. Now, what we've done here is pretty cool. So we've got a first person guide and a third person guide. And what we're showing you is the 10 strongest frequencies in this next 24-hour period. There are many more than 10 frequencies that are testing us. These are the 10 strongest, and this is where they sit. Now, what this allows you to do, so for example, in first person, this is our teammates, how we're getting along with them. If you have left lower quadrant problems, you know darn well it's a teammate or teammates in the younger generations that you're having trouble with. Okay. Vice versa here. If you have problems in your right lower quadrant, we know that it's the family and individual routines that aren't balanced in your life. That's how important it is to know these charts because it really sets the tone for the day. Okay. Now, on the top here, you can see there's a little overlap. You can see there's left on both sides here. This has to do with what you're contributing to at the national level. This has to do with how you're getting along with females and males at the leadership level. Now, if you get right upper quadrant pain, we know it just has to do with your routine. So the left is the only one that really has some overlap here. Again, that's why it's so important. You document what you feel when you feel it. All right, we're almost done here. As always, we're going to end with this. We got the rest of the summer season, the rest of the fall season for 2024. You got no excuses. This is the organized pattern of chaos. This is what's trying to trip us up, and it's working us over. You don't believe me? Look around. Now, the more people we get understanding this pattern, the more people we get focused on staying calm, the more people that decide that they're not going to be manipulated by their defensive design, what they're doing is they're using their free will. It'd be pretty hard for you to make an argument that you're using free will when we're predicting all kinds of tragedies and weather events that are dictated by us being manipulated and not even knowing it. So, again, this is all about empowerment. This is about you becoming aware of what's been happening and you just didn't realize it. And the benefit is threefold. You don't age as fast, you slow and you prevent disease, and there's a reward if you decide to do this. And I don't know why we wouldn't decide to do this because it ain't any fun to suffer. At least that's how I feel about that. All right, that's it. We did it. We'll see you in the next 24 hours.